Hi everyone, and welcome back to DC&T. This is episode 4, and I just want to go ahead and say that I apologize for the long delay this episode has had. It was not intentional. The first week that we were delayed, by the way, we're coming back after 2 weeks. It was because of technical difficulties. So I had to delay. I basically had to kind of re-record my episode. But by the time that I went to go re-record, I was sick. And when I'm sick, I'm usually sick for a whole week, even no matter how much I, take medicine, whatever. So when I went to re-record, I was still so congested. And I'm like, hey, you guys do not want to hear that. You do not want to hear that. So again, sorry about the unintentional delay on this episode, but I am happy to be back with my not congested self and my healthy self, and getting back to jumping into DC&T. And I do have, I guess, some more tea this week, even though it's not really tea, but I don't know. I really try to incorporate the name into this podcast. It's not just me talking, hopefully. But because this is going to be the first episode that doesn't have a overall, like an overarching theme like the first three. I unintentionally did it where it was Superman first, Wonder Woman, and then Batman. But this episode, I just have a lot of things to talk about because it's been a while since I've talked to you guys. So I have a variety of topics, starting from, again, there is a bit of Superman here. And I wanted to also talk about DC animation and then jump into some comics with Dark Knights of Steel, give my thoughts on that. And talk about some comics that I'm reading, letting you guys know what I'm picking up usually. So let's just jump into this. So yes, this week we are again talking about Superman. Honestly, is Superman my brand at this point, especially on Twitter? I feel like it has definitely become what I'm known for in a way, which is funny. Because I don't know, I maybe wouldn't have expected that, but why am I saying that? Because I just love this character and I can't shut up about him. So I should have expected that. But this is a little Man of Steel Superman segment because I had a whole saga happen a couple weeks ago where I tweeted out some random things about Man of Steel, and I kind of just wanted to respond to a couple people that responded to me with my tweets. So first, it started on November 3rd. I don't know why. I think Man of Steel was just randomly trending, so I just wanted to contribute to the trend. So I tweeted out something like, I'm gonna pull up. If you are watching the video version of this, you will be able to see my tweet. But November 3rd, it was 12:24 p.m. and I just really tweeted out, "This is your reminder that Man of Steel is an absolute masterpiece, beautifully shot and scored, and Henry Cavill was born to play Superman. Short, sweet, simple, left it alone, didn't really come back to it." But I noticed, again, this is what begins the saga, follow along with the story. And I noticed that a lot of people who responded to this tweet, other than maybe just agreeing with me, because a lot of people, I talk with them, we all like Man of Steel, we all like Superman. So other than us geeking out over Superman, there were the outliers who responded. And most of them were talking about, Superman 1978 and, Christopher Reeve, and how they don't think Man of Steel is a masterpiece. And I'm like, hey, why do I care? This is my opinion. But every time someone responded who was, combating me in some kind of way, they always mentioned Superman 1978. Like, I don't like Superman, that movie, at least, the first movie. And I'm like, where did I say this? Where did I say that? So I tweeted again the same day. The same day, November 3rd, 7:06 p.m. And I said, okay, when I say that Man of Steel is the best Superman movie ever, it doesn't negate how much I love Superman 78. It may seem weird, but you can like multiple things at the same time. I promise it's possible. So again, sweet, short, simple, I guess, sweet and sassy, I don't know. Because again, it's always so strange to me when people assume that I don't like Superman 78 just because I like Man of Steel, or that I'm trying to, if I say I like Man of Steel, I'm saying something negative about 78, which is so strange. I'm like, why can't people like multiple things at once? And It's the same. A little bit of Marvel here, but it's the same with Spider-Man. Just when I say that Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man doesn't mean that I hate MCU Spidey or I hate Tobey. I love all of the Spider-Man. I'm sorry for a bit of the Marvel invasion or whatever, but you know, just because I say I love this person the most, or even when I rank movies, doesn't mean I don't love the movies in the middle. It's a ranking, like something has to go like in the middle or bottom, you know? But I did want to respond to someone who responded to this tweet because it was funny. Well, it's funny to me. So this person or account or whoever they are called Unfiltered Lens, they said, first of all, okay, I had to sometimes the way people respond is so hilarious. Okay, I have to get into character. Okay. First of all, Man of Steel is absolutely not better than Superman the movie. In fact, I consider them on the exact opposite ends of the quality spectrum. Secondly, the issue isn't whether you like them both. You rank them poorly. That's the problem. Let's just all pause and let this sink in. And let this sink in. Because this is just one response, but a lot of the responses, again, that were combating me were similar to this person account, whoever this person, I do not know who this person is. And I'm like, look, I know we all have different opinions in real life and on Twitter for sure, but there's no such thing as ranking something poorly. I'm gonna repeat that. There is no such thing as ranking something poorly. You can always disagree with someone. We all have our opinions. That's obvious. But the problem is that I rank them poorly because it doesn't agree with what you say. Like, make it make sense, please. It doesn't make any sense. So continuing the saga. What happened? This happened in 2 days, you guys. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I wonder about myself. Anywho, continuing the saga of my Twitter Superman Man of Steel rants or just tweets or like random tweets, I noticed that a lot of other people who responded to I think either honestly both the first and second tweet where they were always saying like, oh, he's so inspirational, but he killed Zod or he killed a bunch of people and blah 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 blah. So I tweeted this sarcastically, and I should have, this is dumb on my part because I should have immediately like come under it and said something, but I did not expect this tweet to blow up as much as it did because I thought just the people who knew me would find it. So I said, okay, y'all, if Clark and Man of Steel is going to get continuously shit on for taking innocent lives, then I need the Avengers to be tried for crimes against humanity. Like, come on. But maybe that sounds ridiculous to you, but that's my exact point. It is ridiculous to blame Clark and Man of Steel and the Avengers for the entire disaster. That's my entire point. But my point is I always see this criticism for Clark and I never see it for the Avengers. Unless there's just someone who really doesn't like the Avengers and doesn't like that movie. But it's not like a constant state of mind, especially like after the Avengers premiered, like the actual movie, it wasn't a constant critique. But after Man of Steel premiered, it was a constant critique of the movie, like, oh, you killed all these people, or you had this whole disaster, or you killed Zod. And I'm like, let's keep the same energy. But people did not understand what I was trying to say. And a lot of them also really didn't get it because a lot of them were responding like, oh, didn't they address this in Batman v Superman? Didn't they address this in Civil War? I'm like, sure, but that's not my point. I'm just addressing the original movies, the original movies. And I'm still saying that this point doesn't make sense. That is my point, that it doesn't make sense to criticize Clark. And if you are going to criticize Clark, keep the same energy. That's all I have to say. But someone did respond to this, and I thought the response was so strange, and I really wanted to dig deep and analyze this. So this person called what are you called? Who are you? Sarcasticus Rex. Okay, I probably did not pronounce that correctly, but I don't know who you are, so whatever. Moving on. What you tweeted at me was very fascinating because it doesn't make any sense. But honestly, whenever people reply to me about Superman, it usually doesn't make any sense. But what you said the character and idea of Superman is to be a beacon of hope, an icon of, okay, you have so many errors. Okay. In what you wrote, an icon of goodness and justice. Snapping Zod's neck like a punk isn't Superman. It's Zack Snyder's version of Superman, an easier Superman to write. The Avengers are not icons. Okay, first of all, let me dissect this. You know, I'm an editor in real life, so let's start at the bottom actually with their last line. The Avengers are not icon. Okay, I just addressed this where I'm not saying that, y'all. My original point of the tweet is that this argument is ridiculous. So, moving on from that. And then, the character of an idea of Superman is to be a beacon of hope, an icon of goodness and justice. Snapping Zod's neck like a punk isn't Superman. It's Zack Snyder's version of Superman, an easier Superman to write. What are you talking about, man? I just really have to... I don't understand what you're really talking about with this tweet, because... this snapping Zod's neck like a punk. Okay, next time Zack Snyder should just have him kill, like Zod kill the family. Because either way, this is what I don't get about people who criticize Clark and Man of Steel, is that if he let Zod kill the family, he would still be criticized. What do you guys want? I truly don't understand what you want. And he is very clear from Clark screaming at Zod to stop, from how he reacted after he killed Zod, that he did not want to do it. He's not a murderer. He's not just, looking, he wasn't searching for Zod. He wasn't vengeful. Snapping his neck like a punk? What are you talking about? He was trying to save a family. What are you talking about? Because even in Batman versus Superman, even though Superman is criticized, he does become that beacon of hope and goodness in the future. So what are you talking about? This is such a strange tweet. It is so odd that so many people liked it, because it doesn't make any sense when I put it together in my head. And then again, I really have to address this, because how is this version of Superman easier to write? You said, oh, it's Zack Snyder's version of Superman, an easier Superman to write. How? An easier Superman is not someone like... what I love about Zack Snyder's Superman is that he addresses Clark and Kal-El like a person who has conflict, and who is confused and doesn't always know the answers, especially since he's just discovered who he is. That's not easier to write. An easier Superman to write would be someone who already knew who he was, already knew his morals, already knew his philosophies, already knew all his powers. So this tweet does not make any sense. I'm just gonna stamp this in my head. Does not make sense. So that is my complete saga of what happened. I think, it was a couple weeks ago. It was November 3rd and November 4th. These tweets happened. And they blew up. I truly was not expecting the amount of attention that they got. I was truly unprepared. I have to mute all the notifications because it got to be way too much. So next, something I really wanted to address, and that's something that has been on my mind for a while, is the Ayer Cut and how I feel about it, because I don't think I really have discussed it that much, even just on Twitter. I just want to give my thoughts on the Ayer Cut, and also this concept art about with Harley Quinn and how I feel, but we'll get into that later. If you are watching the video of this, I'm showing the concept art that was released about a week ago. But my thoughts on the Ayer Cut. I have no problem with the Ayer Cut existing. I would be really interested in seeing the Ayer Cut come out and seeing the differences between what we saw in 2016, I believe, and then what the Ayer Cut is. I will never say no to seeing a director's original vision that was, cut up by the studio. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm saying this because I have seen way too much discourse kind of everywhere about the Ayer Cut, and such a negative connotation and even David Ayer, and it's such a negative connotation. And sometimes it's coming from some Snyder fans, or at least like some original, like, you know, release Snyder Cut campaigners. And I just think they are such hypocrites. I'm not even gonna mince my words or whatever, because it's so hilarious in a way, because they are saying the exact same things that a lot of people would say to us about the Snyder Cut, that, oh, it wasn't real, and then when it was confirmed to kind of be real, it's like, oh, if it comes out, it's not going to be good, it's going to be trash anyway, we don't want to see that, no one wants that, who wants that? And I'm seeing this same discourse for the Ayer Cut coming from the people who campaigned for the Snyder Cut. Not everybody, this is like the 1%, but at the same time, it's so annoying to see this type of discourse, because it's so, it's just so ignorant. Because why? Like, why can't we see the David Ayer's cut of this movie? What is the reason? You don't know if it's going to be good or bad, and then maybe you don't like it, but maybe someone else will like it. What is wrong with him releasing what his vision was? I just cannot get what people are talking about when they campaign against the Ayer Cut. Because what is your problem? Honestly, like, what is the problem? I mean, maybe I just don't live in like a constantly negative world. Like, I don't constantly talk about things that I don't like. That's why you see me talking about things like Man of Steel all the time. So if you say you don't care about Ayer Cut, then just don't talk about it. Right? I think that's a simple solution, right? I think that's a simple solution. But I also want to address something else that is, associated with the Ayer Cut, and how people reacted to this concept art that was released it was concept art of Harley and Joker. Like, Joker had something, well, actually, I don't think the Joker was a concept art. I think that was a photo. But I think the Harley is the concept. And again, it's the whole thing of like, oh, this looks like trash. Why do we want this? Blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, Harley doesn't look good either. Why do we want this? But what frustrated me about the Harley situation is that a lot of people were saying like, oh, this costume sexualizes her. And again, I'm showing this on the screen if you are watching the video. That will be uploaded sometime. But when I first saw this costume, I actually liked it. I liked the red and blue. I remember seeing this. I'm like, man, I don't want to wear this. I could cosplay as this. I could kind of do this. But I actually kind of like it. I like the red and blue. I like the pigtails. Of course, the classic baseball bat. I didn't look at this photo and immediately go like, oh my god, trash. Throw it away. And then also, I didn't look at this photo and immediately go like, oh, David Ayer, you're sexualizing Harley. We don't want you to do that. So it has to, okay, no. It's a big no from me, because this clothing sexualizes Harley. That doesn't make any sense. I'm just gonna say, I really get so irritated when, like, okay, look, I understand some people who did not like the way Harley was filmed in 2016's Suicide Squad. I understand that. But I hate this idea that clothing is sexual in any capacity. Clothing is not sexual. It's the gaze that is sexual. The way you film someone, the way you immediately look at someone is like, oh, you're wearing that for me? No, I'm not wearing it for you. No. So, and I think I was also thinking about this the other day, because I was thinking about the Snyder Cut. And of course, I'm thinking about the Snyder Cut. And I just find it so interesting, because I remember when the outfits did come out for the Amazons, and they were more like, you know, what's the word, skimpy, or like they were just less material than, the outfits from the 2017, I believe, Wonder Woman movie. A lot of people immediately thought like, oh my gosh, Zack Snyder, he's sexualizing the Amazons. And the thing is, when the Justice League version of the film came out, they weren't correct, because it wasn't Zack Snyder, but people's fears were correct, because the Amazons did not come across well. But when you actually watch the Snyder Cut, they're not filmed with this sexual gaze at all. They're filmed like the way they should be filmed. They're just warriors. Like it was so interesting. It's like especially the two Amazons who have to take out the what is it, like the stone gate at the end, and they have to take it out with this hammer. And yes, they are wearing less material and you can see their abs, but you're not looking at them like thinking like, oh man, it's so sexual, because it's not sexual. It's really just showing their, you know, physical prowess. Like, it's very clear that they're being framed as warriors, even though they're wearing, like, you know, less material than, you know, the original Wonder Woman. So that is my point in saying that it's not the clothing that makes something sexual. So I really need people to stop talking about Harley and that she can't wear anything. This is my point. Because do you guys not see a problem with looking at this photo? And if you're not looking at it, I'll describe it. It's just Harley, you know, holding her back behind her head. She's standing against a wall. You know, she has like a good facial expression, you know, kind of like angry-ish, sassy, something, you know, going on. What is sexual about this? Can you please tell me when you look at this photo, what is sexual about this? Because I just don't believe that clothing is sexual. I do not believe that someone who's gonna wear short shorts or something is being sexualized, or that they're sexualizing themselves. I think that's a trash way of thinking. So I just really want to get out of this narrative. I really want to do that. Next topic that I wanted to discuss, Marvel is kind of coming into this now. I'm sorry, you guys. Just for a little bit, because I did want to discuss a little bit about Eternals and how I feel about the reaction that it's gotten, especially since the director said that she took some inspiration from Man of Steel for Icarus, which was very obvious to me. So I don't understand why some people were so shocked and like felt betrayed. At least like some maybe like dire MCU stands or something, like, oh, that's why it's trash. I'm like, didn't you just say you like this movie, but now that is inspired by Man of Steel in some capacity, you don't like it? Really? Okay. But that's what I wanted to talk about, really. It's like, why is Eternals getting this reaction? And the thing is only getting it from critics. So when you look at the audience score, I'm just going by Rotten Tomatoes, even though I don't really I don't follow Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I don't go to Rotten Tomatoes and like look at it and determine what movies I'm gonna watch, you know? But I just do find it fascinating for Marvel, because they're always so high up in Rotten Tomatoes, even when some of their movies don't deserve it. And with Eternals, it's so odd that the audience score is like 80% or something, and then it's in the 40s with the critic score. It's rotten. And I'm like, this, of all things in Marvel, this is rotten? Come on, you guys. I don't understand what's going on. And the thing is, maybe a bit of it doesn't surprise me, because when I first watched Eternals, in the theater, like as I was watching it, there were some parts where I was thinking, oh, this reminds me of Man of Steel. It really did remind me of Man of Steel. Not like story-wise, but maybe the way things were shot and the way things were constructed. So that's why I wasn't surprised when Chloe Zhao said that she was a bit inspired by Man of Steel. It's very clear. Especially since I just recently rewatched Man of Steel, because I was that's when I was sick. So with Eternals, I don't know, like people are saying, a lot of people were jokingly saying, the people who were criticizing it, you know, the critics who were criticizing it a bit harder, saying like, oh, it's Marvel's first DC movie. And I'm like, is it? Because can we please give DC movies credit in some capacity? Because sometimes when people say things like that, I think they're just talking about Zack Snyder's movies and they don't like Zack Snyder. Because a lot of DC movies are not the same. I don't know what people are talking about, because Birds of Prey is not the same as Shazam, and Shazam is not the same as Man of Steel, and Man of Steel is not the same as Aquaman, and Aquaman isn't the same as Wonder Woman. They all have kind of different tones, you know? DC isn't sad. Like, maybe DC deals with darker, realistic topics, but to say that the entirety of DC is sad based on the movies is so odd. It's so odd. So I don't know. I don't know why I even make this a topic. I let Marvel come in a bit here. But I just found it so fascinating that sitting in a theater, I was thinking of Man of Steel, and the way critics responded to Eternals is kind of similar to Man of Steel. it is interesting, at least. Honestly, I feel like Eternals is going to be a film that people in 10 years look back on and be like, why were the critics so hard on this? I honestly don't know why. It's very strange. And another topic that have randomly popped into my mind. Again, I have so much to talk about today. It's just there wasn't, there wasn't an overarching theme. But I just wanted to say, what is going on with DC animation? Honestly, what's happening? Because recently, at first I thought, oh, DC animation isn't doing too bad, and technically they're not, because I mean, come on, we have Long Halloween, we have Harley Quinn animated show, we have what was that one movie? Oh, God, every time I mention this movie, I forget what it's called. I think it was Justice Society something, and it was like in the 40s. So World War II. I think maybe that's what it was called. But that wasn't bad either. And we had Superman, Man of Tomorrow. I actually like this the animation style. I think it's great, at least with those movies. But in some aspects, I was just sitting kind of thinking, especially after Injustice came out, and it's like, why did we do this? We did not need an Injustice film, and it's so bad. It's so bad. And then, what even is that Aquaman show? Is that already out, or is it coming, or what's going on? The animation style is also strange there, but I think that's targeted more towards kids. It's like the exact opposite of Harley Quinn. But I just was sitting thinking about it, and yeah, we have those first movies I mentioned, and maybe Injustice seems like an outlier, and Aquaman the show seems like an outlier. I haven't really even watched that, so I don't even know if it's good, but it just looks interesting. But I was thinking, there are so many, compared to what DC animation used to have, because I've been rewatching Justice League, the animated show, and I don't know why, but I was rewatching the Unlimited. I was rewatching Justice League Unlimited first, and then I went backwards and went to Justice League. But there was Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series. You have a bunch of movies that are super iconic. Like there was oh my gosh, another name I'm gonna forget. I think it was Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. I think that's the name of the movie. I'm gonna be mad at myself. But there's so many iconic DC animated movies like Batman Under Red Hood, Dark Knight Returns. I don't know. I'm just trying to name so many. And then there's what else? God, I should have listed these movies. I'm so unprepared. It's so odd when you have all these things in your head and you think you'll be able to remember them, but then you don't. But in comparison, even with just those few movies I listed, in comparison with what is going on today, it's just what is going on today? That's my main question. What do you guys think of DC animation today compared to the iconic era of everything else? Like, I know those things I listed, especially the shows, like, Batman the animated series and then Justice League Unlimited, those are iconic, so you can't really beat those. I understand that. Like, so once something is cemented into being, like, iconic, nothing's gonna compare. But at the same time, DC animation should still be consistent. Again, maybe Injustice was just an outlier, and then maybe the Aquaman show is an outlier, because honestly, I look more towards Harley Quinn to show like quality of like shows today for DC. But it just is kind of strange. It is kind of weird how they kind of gone down, at least in my point of view. Maybe people really, okay, no, I know people didn't like Injustice, the movie. What am I talking about? But maybe people like the Aquaman show that I don't even know if it's premiered yet, because I forgot to look it up. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of this? It was just something that had popped into my head because I was rewatching Justice League, first Unlimited, then I went backwards for whatever reason. I don't know why I did that. But what do you guys think of DC animation? Do you think that it's just, because the previous movies I mentioned are more iconic, or what do you think is going on? Because even in terms of original stories, there's really not. I mean, I guess the Justice Society one, that was an original story, right? Yeah, and then there was another movie. It was more of like, it was kind of set in the 70s. That was another recent movie. Um, but it kind of sucks that when sometimes some of these movies come out, they don't really get that much attention either. Man, what is going on with DC animation? What is going on? Because either you have things that aren't that good, like Injustice, or you have things that are really good actually, but they don't get the attention that they deserve. At least not from people outside of the major fans. So maybe it's the marketing. Maybe that's what it is. And now, my favorite segment, and you guys already know I love talking about comics with you guys, even if you don't read them, because I am trying to convince you to read some. But first, I want to talk about just the current comics that I'm picking up. But before I get into that, I did want to give a little review for Dark Knights of Steel. I don't really usually review comics, but so this will be interesting. But I love the first issue so much. There's just something about this that is just made for me. I love it. It's a combination of, DC Comics, but like very high lore fantasy, medieval fantasy, kind of Game of Thrones-ish, and they just mashed it all together, and I think it's fantastic. But Dark Knights of Steel just recently came out. Well, not recently, but I think it was a couple weeks ago at this point. But the first issue came out and is written by Tom Taylor, who also writes Nightwing, which I will talk about a little bit later. And then the art is by Yasmin Putri. So, oh my god, the art is so fantastic. It is so beautiful. I love it. But Dark Knights of Steel, I think it's so fascinating though. It's gonna continue to be fascinating to see how they use different DC characters and how they end up in this medieval world. Because you have Kal-El, who is the son of, oh my god. So you have Kal-El, who's more of a noble position than Bruce is. Like Bruce is kind of like getting into Jon Snow storyline. Where he's the bastard. But it turns out, honestly, okay, look, this has been out long enough, but I'll leave the little spoilers for the end. But yeah, Bruce is getting, kind of the bastard storyline of like Jon Snow, and then he has, the Robins. Oh my gosh, it was so fun to see the Robins, and with Alfred as well, all geared up to go take on Black Canary. Like, seeing where everyone ends up, especially the king is Jefferson, Black Lightning. I'm like, that is perfect. And then the seer who he was consulting is a Constantine. I'm like, oh wow, that's perfect because magic. Perfect. So I think as this series goes on, I forgot how many issues is in this. It's going to be really cool to see, who is where and what role do they have in this world. But the most fascinating thing to me, I just love the interactions between Bruce and Clark, Kal-El. I think it's so great. I love their friendship, even though Bruce, their personalities are captured so well, even in this new world. I'll keep this review spoiler free, so you guys can go and read it. But that is honestly, that wasn't really a review. It was just me geeking out about the comic. I think it's beautiful. I think it's so well written. I think, again, it will be really cool to see who ends up where with the different DC characters. I think the interactions between Bruce and Clark are wonderful. I just want more instantly. That's the one thing about reading comics, is that it's monthly. Like this one is monthly, so I have patience. When I finish the first issue, I just want to immediately pick up and read more. But this could be, if you don't read comics, this could be something that could get you into it, especially since it's like a limited series. And it's it has the DC characters, but they're in this medieval world. So if you like fantasy, if you like Game of Thrones, you can pick this up. I think you would like it. And lastly, these aren't reviews, but I just wanted to give, some honorable mentions to some comics I'm currently reading. Again, not reviews, just listing them out, and also as honorable mentions, because I know this isn't everything. But what stands out to me the most, I love Nubia and the Amazons. I love Nightwing. Again, I mentioned that before, by Tom Taylor, written by Tom Taylor. So good. The current run is so good. Superman, Son of Kal-El. Oh yeah, Tom Taylor again. Robin, Aquaman, The Becoming, that recently started. Well, it's on the second issue now, I believe. Wonder Girl and Detective Comics. Those are just the things. Those are honorable mentions because I'm reading a lot right now. I'm reading a lot. So again, I just want to give you some insight into what I pick up on a monthly basis, and kind of those are kind of like all over the place. So I end up kind of grabbing something almost every week. So I am happy to be back with episode 4 of DC and T. I hope you enjoyed my DC and both my DC side of the show and the T side, where I guess I addressed the whole saga that happened. It wasn't controversial. Apparently I got ratioed on one of those tweets about the tweet with Man of Steel and the Avengers, but I think the person who maybe ratioed me, again, it was something where they didn't understand my original point, so I don't really care that I got ratioed. It's fine. But yeah, I am glad to be back. As I said, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. And honestly, go over to my Twitter if you want, at DCNT. And always, you can always shoot me a message and even ask just random DC questions. You never know what can pop up on this on the show. And I'm already trying to see what I want to talk about next week. So I'll talk to you guys later.